Hi, I'm Drew.
And I'm Sam.
And welcome to Drewling Samantics.
Oh, look at that. Couldn't even wait for me to get back from the bar.
You caught me mid-swig. Sorry, buddy.
How you doing, buddy? Hang on, I'll just catch up. There we are.
Yeah, no, I'm very well. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well. I tell you what, I'm looking forward to the day that we can actually say that, but, you know. But another week with the unwelcome guest. How's your week been, Sam?
It's been good, mate. So I've had a week of communication, shall we say?
Hello.
So not so much physically. I was going to say going out and doing stuff. Obviously, not going out. Not so much actual performing work per se, but I had a very interesting conversation with a potential client for a modelling job, which sounds really fun. I've spoken again to the team that I'm working with for the house that Zombies built, so that's cool. And my script is now highlighted, and I'm starting to annotate and make marks on that, so that's cool. Actually, just before we started recording, I spoke to a director of another movie I'm doing, who has just confirmed that the funding is coming in very soon. So that should start filming early summer, which is great. And the typical for me, a little bit of voiceover work as well.
Go do a little bit of voiceover work.
It's been busy, but not so much busy with a final product, more leading into other things. What about yourself?
I was lucky enough to do a little bit of filming last weekend. And my good lady wife was joining me as well. So we were playing husband and wife. So that was nice fun.
Oh, wow. No acting required.
No acting required. No, that was lovely. And I've just been rehearsing a couple of times this week for the film called Illusions that we will be filming next weekend. We've got a 3-day rehearse shoot, and then I think we're doing some outside stuff. So we've been rehearsing that, and I know I've been talking about rehearsing it, but it's a really sort of quite a complicated piece with lots of little bits of nitty gritty in it. So we're going to get all out the way so that we can, when we come to shooting, it'll be more plain sailing rather than going, how the hell are we going to do that? So it's been interesting. And
this is where you're playing a magician. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes. Yeah. So So there's some, I've been learning to tango. I know. So luckily the actor I'm working with, Letitia, she's a very, very, very experienced dancer. So it's not so much me leading, it's her dragging me, go put your foot there. So, but luckily it's going to be very split up. So it'll be a shot here, shot there, as you know, and then all the magic will happen in the edit suite.
Those editors are very clever people. They can make us look like we know how to do things that we really don't.
I really don't. Well, you say that, you see. I mean, some things. I mean, I've got to do a couple of not magic tricks in this, but make it appear as though I could do them. So it's. I mean, I've not done that much magic before, although I've done a few sort of illusion-y things in the past. But sort of pick them up on the way. But,
I would have thought you've been more a magician's assistant, mate, because you could fit in one half of the box and get cut.
I thought he was going to say I could fit in the top hat for a minute.
Well, I mean, I thought I'd draw the line somewhere.
You wanted to say that, but
wow.
No, it's interesting because at the little bit of film I did last week, I say that it was last weekend. It was interesting because I had to do something and look very natural, very sort of. As if it was my job. Yeah. And it was interesting because I thought, I've done a bit of this in the past. When I wasn't working, I've done a bit. Oh, okay, I can make that look natural. And the director's going, so you're going to put your hands there. And then I went, well, actually, I put my hands there and do that. And he was going, brilliant. You know what you're talking about? Do it, because none of us here do. So it was like, I'm the only one on the set that where it was going, this is the way you do it. So, that was nice.
It's nice, isn't it? When you've got a little bit of background in something, or when you've got some experience or slight knowledge. I mean, I found it not quite in the same way, but as you know, I've done a lot of modeling work, and primarily outside of commercial modeling for sort of like products or whatever, I've done, I suppose what you'd say is workshop photography. I've worked with lecturers and really top end photographers who are teaching, and they've brought me in to be a workshop model. So it sort of gives, a lot of the time it's an introduction to the students, the pupils. They may not have worked with a model before, or it may be something that they have done, but they've not got a lot of experience in perhaps posing a model or how to work or light a model. And so I come in obviously with a bit of background knowledge and knowing how to model. So it's sort of not throwing them in at the deep end as much. They've got someone who's done it a lot before, so this can sort of help them. But doing that, quite often I will listen in to what the lecturer is saying to the students, and you need this f-stop and put this lens on and blah blah and things like that. And I wouldn't even have known where to start with any of that a few years back, but actually now I've got a little bit of knowledge literally from just listening in, I guess. So, and it's nice to learn things as you go along as well.
It's also the language, the communication thing, because I mean, you so many times you're on. I mean, it's even being on stage, being on set, and it's the language. You go, I know what that person's talking about. So in a minute, when they turn around to me, I've heard them talk about the setting the shot up, the lights, or whatever. Yeah. So when they turn around to me and go, okay, Drew, we need you to do this, I'll go, okay, I know why I'm doing that. I don't need to talk to the guy that's lighting it or the guy that's setting the shot up or, whatever, the sound man, but I know why I'm here.
Yeah.
So I think, when you learn stuff like that you can bring into your work, it's so helpful. I mean, I did some role play work with a big insurance company, and they basically it was a 4-day workshop, and it was presentation skills, and it was how they were going to give a talk or a lecture or whatever. And some of them were quite senior executives, and they can develop a product, they can, but the one thing that terrified them was actually standing in front of, didn't matter how many people. The guy said, even if I'm standing and I'm doing a presentation to half a dozen people, he said it could be 6, it could be 600. He said it's still terrifying. He said if I'm sitting at my desk chatting with a colleague, piece of cake. He said, but when I'm told it is a presentation, freezes. And not only, and so not only as an actor could I go, okay, well, I'll give you a few breathing exercises, blah, but I was also learning from them, because when I've done any corporate role play, I'm going, okay, I'm going to be like that guy there.
Yeah.
Because that guy, so it's the observation thing of it, but it was, when I went into a role play situation and I'm acting out a company director, in the back of my mind, I think his name was Trevor or Doug or something like that. I remember Doug being quite sort of like laid back and a bit cynical, and yet really knew his stuff. I'm modeling myself on him,
it's drawing on your experiences, and as you say, you learn from what you're doing, and quite often you'll be transferring skills is really useful. So you and I have both done various other things in life outside of
other jobs. Yeah.
that perhaps have been of use at times in the acting world. I mean, you're aware, I imagine a lot of people listening or watching in aren't aware, I actually studied an engineering degree in media. So I did a lot of work on how projection and screens work, sound, so microphones and speakers, taking them apart, putting them together, how they work, what the inner workings of them are, and then the electronic and sort of mechanical side behind it, and the scientific side as well. So how sound actually is created and moves and things like that, and how your eye works and sees certain colors and things. So although that's quite far away from a lot of the stuff I'll ever do as a performer, there are elements. So understanding even something simple as setting up the room here to have a decent microphone, have some sound deadening to make sure that what we're recording is of high quality. I know about angles, I know about reflective surfaces and things like that, which a lot of it is common sense. but I believe it has given me sort of a little bit of knowledge in the background that has helped.
Yeah, I mean, it's you can come into things completely cold and have someone tell you how to do them. You know, if you're acting, you know, if you, I'm thinking acting wise. Some guy comes up. I mean, I did one of my first television jobs was playing a paramedic, an ambulance man in EastEnders,
Oh, really?
and it was just one episode. And I had to attend to Anita Dobson, Clang, name drop.
Other previous EastEnders stars are available. Are we allowed to say?
Yes, but she is an amazingly delightful lady, I have to say. She's lovely. But I had to give her an endotracheal intubation. In other words, shove a tube down her throat.
Wow. I mean, I'm not sure I could say that, let alone mime doing one.
No, I had to have a bit of a run up at that, but but they said, you know, this has been written. All the procedure in the script was correct, but they said, would you mind going down to your local hospital and learning how to do this? And I went, of course. So I took myself down to Hammersmith Hospital, and I rang them down. I rang the ambulance liaison officer and said, look, I've got to do this. I need to learn how to do it to make it look good.
Yeah.
And he said, brilliant. He said, great. I'm very happy. He said, come down. He said, I'll teach you. He said, if you've got time, you can join one of our training classes. Unfortunately, I didn't have time, but he spent an hour and a half, 2 hours showing me exactly how to apply this, put the equipment down the back of the throat, open up the wind, put the pipe down the back of the windpipe. And he said, okay. He said, I wouldn't trust you to be able to do it. He said, but you can blag your way on set. And when I arrived on set, they had their medical advisor there. And he said, okay, we're going to do it. If you do that, and then the camera's going to cut away. But he said, you know exactly how to hold it, what angle to bring your hands in and all that. He said, great. We know exactly what we're doing. But it was interesting because the ambulance liaison officer said to me, we're so glad that you've come in to do this. He said it was so often, and the bill was at its height then, and I think London's Burning was and they had, you know, emergency teams left, right, and centre on television. Yeah. Apparently, they were doing things very, very badly. Not everyone, not, you know, but he said, you know, he said there was one scene in the bill that he referred to, and he said there'd been a car crash, and there was a guy being taken from the car wreck to the ambulance. He said, and there was 2 firemen and 2 police officers. He said, but there wasn't a paramedic carrying him. He said, that would never happen.
No.
You know, he said, I know they want their actors to feature strongly. He said, but that would never happen. He said, yeah. So I learned early on, you know, and then there was quite a gap before I did much more television, but I learned early on, if you're going to do something, you know, learn how to do it. And it did, I mean, and I watched it and it was, yeah, it looked great, you know, and I even got recognized in my local Tesco's the next day. When, you know, like, yes. But it was right. And they shot it and it looked great. And I thought, I look like I know what I'm doing, you know. Amazing. I mean, I knew more about giving that than I did about acting on the set at that time. But it was interesting to learn that. And I've done that a couple of times. I've done money-making jobs that have given me some skills when I've been, you know, survival jobs, you know, resting jobs, whatever we want to call them, pay the rent jobs.
Well, this is it. And I guess it's quite an insight to be able to talk about something like this, because it's all too easy to think perhaps, oh, well, you're an actor, so you just do some acting, and that's as simple as that. You're either on a stage or you're in front of a camera or you're, I don't know, you're modeling for a magazine, and it's kind of very, you could streamline it right in, but certainly the life of a performer is much, much broader, shall we say? Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I was thinking, I mean, as you were saying that, it was like, it's very easy now because with social media, if you get it wrong, you know,
there are dozens and dozens of people who are going to hit Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and go, "You did that wrong. He did that wrong. That looked dreadful. Did you see so and so last night do something really badly?" You think, I can't hide.
It's progressed, hasn't it? I think obviously you can look at it in lots of different directions. I'll get a random example. My dad, my old man, he's a lift engineer. So anytime we're watching a movie together and someone forces the lift doors open, he'll sit there and go, "You can't do that. We don't want that. No, it would override and blah, blah, blah." Or if a lift drops or something, well, there's safety ropes. That wouldn't happen. I know, Dad, it's a film, but it is a valid point. Like,
it's a valid point.
It doesn't necessarily make a massive difference in the grand scheme of things. Like, for example, you doing your intubating or whatever you were doing. But there'll be a fair few people out there that go, "Well, that's not really believable now, is it?" So it does help. I think it does help. It's a massive difference to have accuracy and just to go that extra mile, those little in-depth bits. I think, and as you say, various random jobs that you and I and the rest of the acting performing world have done may help in those scenarios, or may be completely unconnected, as I'm sure you look like you've got one you want to tease out.
I was just thinking about, I've done, I mean, it's like bar work, and like bar work and waiting on tables, and I never thought I'd ever sort of ever need, the to reference the bar work and waiting work I did when I was younger and out of drama school and skinned,
So
but in all the years of,
were you a really, really bad waiter?
Well, actually, I was quite a good waiter. There was one.
Oh, go on.
There was
I'll explain in a minute. But
there was one instance though where I blagged a job at a local restaurant not far from where my parents were living at the time, and I went to the guy and he said, "We need a wine waiter." I can drink it. I couldn't tell you anything about it, but he said, "Just
red,
follow
that's
me."
White. There we go.
Yeah. He said, "Just follow me. I'll show you what to do." He said, "You just need, and I uncorked a couple of bottles." He said, "That's absolutely fine. Show me how to dress the bottle with a napkin, pour it. Fine." And at one point, I was serving a family reunion, and some of these people hadn't seen each other for about 15, 20 years. Right. And I believe it was the parents, mum at one end, dad at the other. It was their, I don't know, 50th wedding anniversary or something like that. And they asked me to open a bottle of champagne. Now, It was expensive champagne. And I wasn't that skilled at opening a bottle of champagne. Certainly when you can't put it on the table and put a tea towel over the top and just swear a bit, you've got to do it.
Yeah, that's not quite as, what's the word? Not quite as eloquent doing it that way, is it? If you're waiting a table as the wine waiter, you want to look a bit more professional and confident. So yeah,
you'd think, yeah. But I had this bottle. I had this bottle of champagne. I had the bottle shoved under my arm, and for about good 3 or 4 minutes of vigorous struggling and shaking. So you can imagine what's happening. And eventually, the cork came out, and I was at one end, at mum's end, to serve mum first. And the cork shot right the way down the table. It hit the guy, dad, square in the chest. And of course, quite a lot of champagne went over the table.
Right.
There was about a 5-minute silence, or 5-second silence. Sorry. 5-second silence. Everyone's like, "What the hell has just happened?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to be sacked." And then everybody just burst into laughter. And I'm like, "I'm going to go over here and get another bottle." The head wine waiter grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and hauled me off. And, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Or words to that effect. So the rest of the night, I was literally just polishing glasses and kept well away. But at the end of the night, I thought I'd lost. I didn't lose my job. They kept me on and, gave me menial tasks until they taught me. But at the end of the night, the guy came up who I'd shot in the chest with the cork, squeezed a tenner into my hand, which in those days was a lot of money. It was like, bloody hell.
Back then, that'd buy you a house.
Well, you could in those days. Yeah, a car. But he said, thank you, mate. He said, I hope you still got your job, and you are possibly the worst wine waiter I've ever seen. He said, but we've sat there for 25, 30 minutes, no one really saying anything. And he said, you literally broke the ice with that,
Brilliant.
But dreadful moment. Dreadful
Every
moment.
cloud, mate. Every cloud. So,
and then of course I use that now in the, as
and
Manuel.
that's obviously where I was going when I said, "Are you a bad waiter?" Because Manuel, bless his heart, doesn't have particularly high-end waiting skills. Although, I mean, a lot of that's probably under a bit due to the stress that's instigated.
Stress of
yeah,
Basil, but yeah.
But no, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't say necessarily that I've done a lot of other jobs before I was sort of full-time acting, if you can call it full-time. I didn't really do. Ironically, I actually worked for the ambulance service, so
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so small connection there. But I've not, touch wood, ever had to use that in the acting world, or certainly for anything that's of concern. And before that, I was a teacher, so I guess that's worked quite well with regards to doing things like workshops and days when done school theatre and then had to do bits of theatre with the kids afterwards, or live events. I mean, I guess the thing is, you do so many different things, though, that at some point something random you'd never even considered would be of use might just pop up. I guess actually, just saying that, then I many years ago I was very much into modifying and racing cars, and I've gone around a track a few times and also done sort of like skid pan work. And as I've mentioned previously, I've started doing some stunt work over the last couple of years, and I am, fingers crossed, hopefully at some point, and if you're listening, Mark, who runs the stunt team, get me out in a car soon. I cannot wait. But hopefully we'll have the opportunity to do some stunt driving at some point, which would be just phenomenal. So
that's brilliant.
But these little random things, they all sort of pile up, and then all of a sudden you'll do something in a show or in a film, and they'll be like, "Oh, we need you to do this," and you go, "I can do that. I know
do
that."
Yeah, I must admit, I've not had anything quite as exciting as driving a car or anything. I mean, I once had to. I was in a play. It was a kind of. I suppose a poor man's Alan Ayckbourn. It was a new piece of writing. It was quite a funny script, but for the first hour or 45 minutes, the play's sort of set in two rooms. So you've got the dining room, lounge, and then there's a hallway, and then there's another room. That's it. There was a dining room, and then there was a living room. That's right. And there's a wall down the center of the stage, sort of at a slight angle. And I'm playing. The lovely actress was playing my wife in it, and she's the housekeeper, and she's doing the cooking, and she's basically giving advice on childcare, etc., right the way through the play. Mm. And I'm her husband, and they've said, can your husband come in and do a little bit of painting and decorating for us? And in the play, she said yes. So right all the way through the play, and there's a door, there's a long wall. The wall was about 20 or 30 feet long, well, about 25 feet long, and there's a doorway in the middle of through which all the actors are moving, the other actors. Yeah. And I'm given the job. They tell me, you've got to paint this hallway, and you've got to start, and you've got to be at the end of the first act, have finished painting the wall.
No pressure.
The thing interesting, yeah, no pressure. But the interesting was, some nights she'd get halfway along and go, "Oh God, they're really quick tonight. I gotta creep," because they at the end of the act, at the end of the first act, they all come out and go, "You've made a really lovely job of that. Never thought you'd finish it, so you had to get it finished."
You had, yeah. Never thought you'd finish it. Oh, well, I haven't. Kind of ruined.
Or they change the line like, "You've made a really good job. Knew you wouldn't finish it." But I got halfway along one night and thought, "Oh, crikey, they're really quick tonight." So, and I was doing it with a roller, but something, like rolling it really carefully and cutting it in at the top, and I'd done a lot of painting and decorating when I was. I had a flat in Acton with a landlord who was nice enough guy, But just occasionally, I was a young actor, a little bit out of work, wouldn't always have, and I'd look towards and go, Christ, it's the rent's coming up.
Yeah.
So I'd say, I tell you what, do you need any painting and decorating done? And I knew we had lots of flats and lots of bedsits and studios around, kicking around. So I'd say, look, if I do one of your flats, would that be the rent for the week or the month or whatever? And he'd go, yeah, it's fine.
Nice.
So I did a lot of painting and decorating to pay the rent. But on this one occasion, on this ladder in the middle of this, painting this wall, I had to finish the damn thing, but I look really good, I know what I'm doing, but I'm just a bit slow. But I had to get the damn thing finished.
Amazing. It's intriguing, isn't it? You think of these little skills. I mean, I can't think of anything necessarily substantial in a play, or I mean, I did a big event / sort of musical play. I did two lots of, so there were 3 episodes. You can't really call them episodes, but each year it came back with a new thing. It was sort of a Asian influence, sort of traditional stories mixed with British fairy tales, basically a bit like a pantomime, but more sort of the Asian influence side of things. And there was a requirement for myself and my a colleague. We played opposite each other as basically a modern-ish version of the Chuckle Brothers, useless brothers who were really stupid, but ended up saving the day every time by accident. And there was a call for us at the end of the show. We had like break dancers and real decent dancers in this show, but we had to join in, but be really bad. And that was second nature because I'm a dancer. So no problem whatsoever doing that. I mean, I just went for it. Just really kind of gave it my all and looked awful, which is exactly what they were after. So no problem there. And the other one that springs to mind is, I mentioned before, I've done Importance of Being Earnest a couple of times. Which requires my character to eat cake quite quickly. That I can do in my sleep. I mean, eating cake. Yeah, great. Give me
piece of cake, isn't it?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah, I've seen you when we've been on tour, demolish.
Hey, now, that's the kind of behind the scenes stuff we're not allowed to talk about.
Oh, come on.
I keep myself fit and trim and don't eat ordered chips every time we're eating in a restaurant before we go and do a show.
I know your body is a temple, but I mean, my God, there's some big temple grounds, isn't there?
Oh, this is what we've descended into. It's insults. Look, some of us eat healthily and large enough portions that we continue growing to a normal human size rather than stopping halfway there.
Yeah, I know, mate. But the trouble is with, if when you're sat on your own mushroom, you can't eat it, can you? You know what I mean?
This is just turned into insults, hasn't it? Really?
Yeah.
People will have switched off and gone, no, they're just
they're just fighting now,
like an old married couple nagging and. But
no, or you might. I mean, I was going to say that reminded me of something. Then and it was a real sort of scoop, but weird costumes, wearing weird costumes. I did once. I was an elf once. In the background of a photo shoot,
right?
And I literally just dressed me as an elf and made me stand there. I to this day don't know why I was there. I have no idea why there was an elf in the back of this shot. I just don't know.
It's a period drama, and
it was advertising a garden centre.
Are you sure you were an elf and not a gnome?
Yeah, well, quite, because they said, "Well, you're an elf," and I thought, well, sit me down with a fishing rod and I could be it. But then, no, you're not a gnome, you're an elf. And I thought, well, I'm not saying anything. No one's ever referring to me. I'm just stood by a shed at the back of this shot as an elf. And very obviously a Christmas elf, because there was lots of tinsel on the costume. And I thought, and this is July, Yeah.
Not. But do you know what? I thought at some point not necessarily in this episode, but we would end up talking about not necessarily worse jobs, but just weird and wonderful things. And now you've
Yeah.
said costume, I can't really not. So there are two, like one is not a costume, one is a set of costumes. So one of my first ever professional full-time acting gigs, big contracts, whatever you want to call it, I did a national tour of what was essentially an ABBA tribute. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really need any more information other than that. So yeah, just lycra, cat suits, shiny, sparkling. Yeah, that's all that you need to know about that one. But that pales in comparison to this next one, mate. So a little bit of backstory. I worked for a theatre company who quite often did events, and there was a large what the hell was that? Did you hear that? It was a random bleeping noise.
Random bleep.
Yeah. This theatre company did events, and they worked quite closely with a local. It wasn't a shopping centre. It was a kind of like an outlet-y sort of thing. But either way, they had a big park there for kids and lots of entertainment for kids and stuff like that. And every now and then we'd go and do like a little immersive things. We might do a sing-song and do a show every 20 minutes or something like that. And one day we went there because it was International or World Flower Day. Completely random. I'd never heard of it, but there are days for everything, aren't there? So this just happened to be World Flower Day. And we had little stalls and actors sort of wandering around dressed in costumes, and kids could come up and decorate. I think it was a paper plate, and they could draw a flower, and we turned this entire wall of a building into like a garden, like with the kids' paintings and stuff. But we had to be dressed appropriately. And you're obviously dreaming up all sorts of things. People at home listening, watching, you can come up with your own imagination what people would possibly dressed as. But I think we had like woodland animals, and we had people with sort of like flowery headdresses on and stuff. So you'd think, right, well, what could Sam possibly get landed with? Flowers would be pretty bad. Weird woodland creature. Well, I'm quite tall, and giraffes don't live in the wood. But whatever. No. I managed to end up dressed as a topiary bush. Oh yeah.
What shape were you?
Well, I was sort of a pillar of green hedge, but then with this headdress thing, which had what looked like stalks of broccoli and then massive sort of florets of. It's impossible to describe what an absolute lunatic I look like. I mean, just not even words can't cover it, mate. Seriously.
But very, very sensibly, and now I'm going to have to ask you now: have you been able to use that experience ever? You know, working on stage in very deep and wonderful productions. Have you ever brought your bush into use? I mean, I don't know, mate. You know?
Yeah. Oh God, the amount of times I've been doing something really serious, like a tragic Shakespeare, and I've got to the end of a massive monologue and thought, well, I wish I had a bush on my head. So no, but there we are. The weird and wonderful world. It's not as much as we wish it was. We'd all love to go, oh yeah, well, all I ever do is heroic roles in action films. No, there are quite a few little odds and ends that go in.
I mean, the thing is, I mean, to you know, on a serious note, I mean, we've all done, you know, lots of actors have done lots of different jobs, but I mean, and I have always been grateful for, you know, people employing us. And an actor, I mean, another thing about an actor is we're so desperate to please that we'll always do you a good job, and we'll always go. And an actor will always, you know, will go, I'm going to take something away from this. I'll use this experience. And not to get too pretentious about it. I mean, I pretty much have been able to use a lot of what I've done. I mean, there's some jobs that I hopefully never have to use any experience. You know, there's a couple of bad ones. I think, no, I'm never going to use that. But, you know,
it's all experience, and it all allows us to tell stories and come on a podcast and talk about how we were a bush for the day. So there we go. So have you got anything coming up where you have to dress as a bush, mate?
No, I have not got any topiary experiences coming up. I mean, no, just next week's And we'll be filming towards the end of the week. So we've got a couple of days rehearsals, a little bit of magic and tango, and then we shoot at the end of the week, and that one will be done and dusted.
Very nice.
They're looking forward to that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that schedules will come through for filming. And what with changes happening in the rules and regulations, we're going to be getting back to filming sooner and getting out and doing things. But I tell you what, my most exciting thing that's happening next week, we've only got another guest coming on, Drew.
Oh, we've got another guest. Of course, we've got another guest. Yes. Yay.
Exciting stuff.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
And with said guest comes not one, but two giveaways.
We've got two giveaways.
Two giveaways. So
we're gonna
it's
a wonderful guest who's mucho generous. Great stuff.
Indeed. And I'm really, really excited for it. So anyone out there in podcast land or watching on YouTube or however you happen to be listening or watching us, you do not want to miss next week. It's going to be incredible. There's going to be competitions you'll want to enter. It's going to be superb. So really excited. And on that note, you may have seen, if you follow us on social media, if you don't, please do, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. You may have seen that we released basically a massive thank you saying that the support that's coming in is unbelievable. And I just want to reiterate that now, and I'm sure you do as well, Drew.
We are gathering some wonderful subscribers, wonderful numbers. So thank you all. But, and we've got some great, as Sam said, we've got some fantastic guests coming in. So there's, just keep following us, keep liking us, and just keep
share. Let's get some more people to join
the
Drewling Samantics community. We'd love friends and family to join us, and anyone else you happen to know as well. Random people on the street, stop them from a distance of 2 meters and tell them to tune in.
That's right.
But aside from that, mate, have a blinding week.
Have a good week. Till next week.
Indeed. Cheers. Very much looking forward to it. Ladies and gents at home, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to you joining again.
Yeah. Listen soon. Take care, Sam.
See you soon,
everyone. Have a good week.
Bye. Thanks again for tuning in. We hope you've enjoyed listening to this episode of Drewling Samantics.
If you have, then please consider subscribing, and you'll get notified every time a new episode is released. The podcast is available on all good platforms or directly through our RSS feed. Just check the podcast details.
You can also find us on all popular social media, and you can even watch us on YouTube, although why you'd want to look at Drew's face is a mystery to me. Again, all our social media links and handles are in the podcast details.
We love welcoming new followers and subscribers, so please share with your family and friends, and we'll be eternally grateful. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.